I got an interesting one today. It's a Carter, an early Carter, M594S, number stamped right on the top here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. It's 39 to 47, Chrysler Dodge, DeSoto, Plymouth, and Chrysler Marine from 36 to 51. After this got discontinued, it went to a number 847, and that went up to 54. It's unique because of this top, this fuel section here, pulsator section. And it was before Carter went to the Phillips head screws. It had all the slotted screws on it. But we're going to go through it, clean it up, and get it ready to go back on the car. The first order of business is we want to get this right back in the exact same position that it was when it was on the vehicle, in case you don't do this all at once. So we want to mark all three pieces: the body, the fuel casting, and this top piece here. This top piece is keyed in. It has, see these little notches, so it's pretty hard to get it in the wrong spot. Now it's actually, there's three different ways you could put this together. This notch right here, this piece of casting, is part of this, so it can sit in here or sit in here. So we're going to mark all three. Actually, we're going to mark four pieces. The top piece here too, just so that everything looks exactly the way it was when it was on the car. So once you get these all marked, you can take these screws out. And this one long stud here holds a heat shield, a cover that goes on it to keep the heat away from it. Keeps it from vapor locking. Remove this top bolt. Underneath it is a fiber washer that you'd get in a kit. Just don't forget to take that off. Well, we'll let this top piece wait until after we get the bottom off. Let's see, I tell everybody to mark it, and I didn't. I also like to mark the location for this little stud. Now we can take all the screws out. Removing the last screw should loosen everything up, so that you can just remove that. Now the reason that wouldn't come apart is somebody glued it. So usually this just comes apart, the top piece. These are some interesting valves in here too. We'll get to that in a minute. Normally on the later ones there's a aluminum plug that sits in here. These ones here use a little bolt. And remove the spring. And the pin will slide right out through that hole. Now somebody's done is put a plug in this side, and that's how you get the thing out. With this plug out of the way, take an 1/8 inch punch, push it through, and it pushes the pin out. So we're going to get that out of the way. This might be a little too big to put in there. So we'll get the teeny one. And even that's too big to put in there. We'll get a little small punch and punch that out. Okay, what I had to end up using is a real small screw that I had with no threads on it. And it just fit down in through that hole and push the pin out through the other side. It's the pin that holds the arm in. The arm will slide out, and you can take the diaphragm assembly out. I think what we're going to do is run this through the wash tank first, get some of this oil out of here. But before that, we have to get this piece apart. Well, a little convincing got that out of there. There's another washer. Oh, it sits on top of this filter. This is what Carter decided to do, is put a filter inside of here. This screw right here holds this part onto the fuel section. And then these two come apart, and you run into the pulsator. Once that's out of the way, these valves are not the most fun things in the world. Anyway, another thing to watch out for, there should be a gasket. There's supposed to be a gasket in here, but it doesn't look like it's there. Nope. There it is. it's so petrified that it's hard as a rock. Anyway, this piece is ready for bead blasting. This piece is ready for bead blasting. This is going to go through it too. Now, I'll show you how to get these valves out. You got to be real careful. This valve's going to knock down through and come out this side. This is the valve assembly. Now what you have to do is, see this ring right here. This is actually the valve seat. You got to get that out of there, and there's the valve right there, and inside of here is the spring. Once this seat comes out of here, then the valve plate will come out and the spring will come out. The easiest way to do that, what I found is, you take your screwdriver, thin enough to fit down through the center of one of these things, and we need something that's going to support around this edge but not touch that center, and this particular tool is what does it, and I haven't the faintest idea how you're going to do that at home. But I go down to the top of that and just tap away. It's moving, it just takes time. Okay. And this is what you end up with. Is the spring, what's left of the valve, and the seat. These are the only two pieces you're going to hang on to. And you got to repeat that process for this other valve. Now that all the valves are apart, all your pieces, clean them up, get everything ready to go back together. Remember, don't forget to take this fiber washer off of here. And everything's ready to go through the glass beading tank, and I'll be back with all nice and clean, flat surfaces, ready to go back together. Now that everything's been glass beaded, clear coated, the surfaces are nice and flat, which is important. time for some reassembly. I think what I'll do first is I'll show you how to put these valves together, because they're pretty confusing as soon as I find all the pieces. Little spring, the disc, and the seat. Now this has got to be pressed in. So what I do with them is I set them upside down. Very easy. Very easy, tap that in. You don't want to hit it too hard because you'll break this cage. Make sure that you can blow air in and you can't suck any air out of it. That'll tell you that the valve is seated properly. Now these will only go in, actually they can go in the wrong way, but you can see it's got a little ledge right there. It fits up against that. Set it in and press it in. Same thing with the other side. Set it in, press it down. Now when I was getting everything together for this one, I realized why these particular pumps are R&R only. Everything has to be cut. Has to be handmade. We happen to have blank material, and everything gets keyed in just right. And this top piece, remember that big notch goes in that spot. Big screw. Tighten it down. That way no leaks. This just happens to be the inlet. Fuel will come in through here, go up through this little hole right here, goes through that filter, which is this, and then goes down through the other one and gets pumped out. And we put the screen back in, that little washer with the gasket on. And something else that has to be done. I have to cut 2 notches in this gasket so that it'll fit over this. Just not quite enough room. So we'll notch this gasket out so it'll fit over that, and we'll be able to put the top back together. Gasket's all notched. See if I can get this thing to sit down right. Grab a washer on the end of this bolt. It goes down, it catches on that big bolt that you put in earlier. Or actually that I put in. Tighten it down. This baby's ready to go back together almost. And we put the diaphragm in. And look down inside. I don't know if you can see it or not. See the pull rod coming through. You want to hook this on that, just like that. Put the pin in. Yeah, here's one thing I forgot. Before you put this arm in, there's this little doodad. Don't drop this thing. That holds the spring for the arm return. And you move this thing around, and if you're lucky, we need something to pick that up. Like that. All the way in. And it works. Put the spring on. Okay, the bolt goes through this, and that little tab gets bent up so that the bolt won't turn. But it's already been bent up, so we got to flatten it. I got it stuck now. We got to flatten it out. A pair of needle nose pliers will take care of that. It's going to sit on that notch. See that piece of casting right there? And if you look at this, it's got a little notch cut out of it. Whoops. Get it nice and tight. And then bend up that little piece right there. Just so that it holds the bolt from backing out. And the old piece just happens to be right in the right spot. It ain't going anywhere. Set it back in the vise, and we're ready to put this casting back on. Find the index mark. That's a good sound. I chose to reuse these same screws again, just in case the customer wants to keep everything all original. Those are the original Carter screws. Like I mentioned earlier, that later on they went to the Phillips. Did I miss? Yep. Get two of these screws caught opposite each other. Get two caught opposite each other, and then put the other ones in. Okay, just get these screws all caught. Don't tighten them down all the way. When you're ready to do that, put an adjustable wrench on the end of the arm, just to use for leverage. Pull it up as far as it will go, and then tighten the screws down. What you're doing is preloading the diaphragm. Something that has to be done on all pumps. Yeah, there's a couple that don't need it. Get these all nice and tight before you release that arm. Go around and double check to make sure you got them all done. And this particular one has this one that has the heat shield. It has the stand for the heat shield. Well, this particular one screws in from underneath. The threads are in the body, so it needs a nut at the top. This one's now ready to go back. You want to do a quick test. Hold your finger over the outlet, lift the arm up, and you'll feel pressure coming out. Cover up the inlet, try to pull it, and you'll feel a suction on it. These pumps never had a lot of arm movement, a lot of travel, but they worked for a while anyway. Put a gasket on, it's ready to go back. That brings that job to an end, on its way back to the customer. What I would suggest is, if you have one of those particular types of pumps, send it in to be rebuilt. It's too much, way too much trouble trying to do it at home, where everything has to be made for it, everything has to be hand cut, and it's just misery. But in any event, if this helped, let me know. You can hit subscribe if you want to check out any future videos. And you can catch us on the internet at then-now.com or by phone 781-335-8860. Thanks for watching.